"Mommy, can we get ice cream after your meeting?" 5-year-old Lily tugged at Jessica's designer skirt as they walked through the corporate hallway. Jessica froze, her eyes darting to meet those of Mark Evans, her newest employee, and Lily's father. The boardroom fell silent. 20 executives watched as Jessica, the hard-edged CEO who had never lost her composure in 15 years of leadership, found herself completely speechless. What happened next would change both their lives forever. If you're touched by this story of unexpected connection and family, please hit that like button and subscribe to see more heartwarming content that reminds us what truly matters in life. Mark Evans never planned on being a single father. At 34, he had imagined a very different life than the one he was living, rushing between his daughter's kindergarten drop-offs and his new position at Horizon Technologies. The job was a godsend, even if working directly under the notoriously demanding CEO Jessica Winters terrified him. But Lily was worth every sacrifice, every moment of exhaustion, every impossible juggling act between work and parenthood. Jessica Winters had built Horizon Technologies from the ground up. At 42, she had everything she'd ever wanted professionally: market dominance, industry respect, and a corner office with a view of the Manhattan skyline. What she didn't have was a personal life. 15-hour workdays left little room for relationships, and her reputation for perfectionism had earned her the nickname Ice Queen among her employees. Not that she cared. Success had always been her only companion, and she'd convinced herself it was enough. Their worlds collided on a Tuesday morning. Mark had been working at Horizon for just 3 months when his babysitter called with the flu. With no family nearby and a critical presentation due that afternoon, he made the desperate decision to bring Lily to work, tucking her into the small break room with coloring books and promises to check on her every 30 minutes. "Mr. Evans, I need those projections on my desk in 10 minutes, Jessica's voice cut through the office as she strode past his cubicle, not bothering to look up from her tablet. "Yes, Ms. Winters, they're almost ready," Mark replied, his stomach nodding. The projections were ready, but he'd just received a text from the receptionist that Lily was wandering the halls looking for him. Jessica continued toward her office, her mind already on her next meeting, when she nearly tripped over a small figure with pigtails and a purple backpack. "Are you lost?" Jessica asked, her tone softer than anyone at Horizon had ever heard. Lily looked up with wide brown eyes. "I'm looking for my daddy. He works here now." Something about the child's directness caught Jessica off guard. "What's your daddy's name?" "Mark Evans. He makes computers do things." Jessica raised an eyebrow. Her new software engineer had brought a child to work without permission. She should be furious. Instead, she found herself kneeling to the child's level. "I know your daddy. Let's find him together." By the time they reached Mark's desk, he was frantically searching the break room. The sight of his daughter holding his boss's hand nearly gave him a heart attack. "Ms. Winters, I can explain." Jessica cut him off with a raised hand. "My office. Now." Then, to Lily, "Would you like to see where I work? I have a fish tank." That afternoon changed everything. Instead of firing Mark as he'd feared, Jessica listened to his situation, widowed 2 years ago when Lily was just 3, struggling to balance parenthood and career, determined to give his daughter stability despite the odds. Jessica surprised herself by offering the company's rarely used emergency childcare service for the day. "Just don't make this a habit, Evans," she said, but without her usual edge. Over the following weeks, something shifted. Jessica found herself checking on Mark's projects more frequently. She noticed his exceptional work despite his challenging circumstances. And somehow, Lily kept finding excuses to visit the executive floor, drawn to Jessica's fish tank and the CEO who, surprisingly, always had time for her questions. Mark noticed the change in his daughter. "Did you have fun with Ms. Winters today?" he asked one evening as he tucked her in. "She showed me how to use her special pen that writes on the big screen," Lily said sleepily. "She smells like Mommy's perfume." The comment hit Mark like a physical blow. Lily barely remembered her mother, Claire, who had died suddenly from an aneurysm. The few memories she had were precious, and hearing her connect one to Jessica was both painful and strangely comforting. As months passed, Jessica found herself making unprecedented accommodations for Mark, flexible hours, the occasional work-from-home day when Lily was sick. The office gossip machine went into overdrive, but Jessica ignored it. She told herself it was because Mark was exceptionally talented, a valuable asset to the company. She refused to acknowledge the warmth she felt when Lily would run to her office door, or how she'd started keeping a drawer of children's books and small toys for those visits. Mark noticed other changes too. Jessica began asking about Lily during their meetings. She remembered details about her kindergarten teacher and her favorite dinosaur, Triceratops. Once, she even showed up at Mark's desk with a small stuffed Triceratops she'd spotted in a store window. "It's nothing," she said dismissively. "Just thought she might like it." The company's annual charity gala became the turning point. Mark had planned to skip it. Babysitters for evening events were expensive and hard to find, but Jessica surprised him by making it clear his attendance was expected. "Bring Lily," she said casually. "It's a family-friendly event." The night of the gala, Mark and Lily arrived at the elegant hotel ballroom, both nervous and overdressed. Lily wore her best dress, a hand-me-down from a cousin that Mark had carefully ironed. He wore his only suit, slightly too tight across the shoulders. Jessica spotted them immediately. She crossed the room in her floor-length blue gown, turning heads as always, but her eyes were fixed only on the father-daughter pair by the entrance. "You came," she said, sounding genuinely pleased. Then, to Lily, "You look beautiful. Would you like to see the chocolate fountain?" As Jessica led Lily away, Mark watched in amazement. The fearsome CEO was pointing out desserts and introducing Lily to important clients as if she were showing off her own child. Throughout the evening, Jessica kept them close, including them in conversations, her hand occasionally resting protectively on Lily's shoulder. Later, as the event wound down and Lily dozed in a chair, Jessica joined Mark at his table. "She's extraordinary," Jessica said quietly. "You've done an amazing job with her." "Some days I feel like I'm failing her completely," Mark admitted. "She deserves so much more than what I can give her alone." Jessica was silent for a moment. "My mother raised me alone after my father left. It was just the two of us against the world. She worked 3 jobs sometimes." She paused. "I never thought she was failing me. I thought she was a superhero." It was the first personal information Jessica had ever shared with any employee. Mark recognized the gift of her vulnerability. "Thank you," he said simply. "For everything." The next morning, Lily asked the question that would change everything. "Can Ms. Jessica come to my dance recital next week?" Mark hesitated. "Honey, Ms. Jessica is very busy. She's in charge of the whole company. But she said she likes ballet. I told her I'm going to be a flower, and she said she wouldn't miss it for anything." Mark was stunned. When had they had this conversation? How had the CEO of Horizon Technologies apparently promised to attend a kindergarten dance recital? He approached Jessica's office with trepidation, waiting until her assistant indicated he could enter. "Evans, the Singapore proposal looks good." "I've made some notes," Jessica said without looking up. "Thank you, Ms. Winters. But I'm actually here about something personal." He took a deep breath. "Lily seems to think you're coming to her dance recital next Saturday." Jessica finally looked up. "Yes, at the community center at 2 p.m. It's in my calendar." Mark stared. "You're actually coming?" "Unless you'd prefer I didn't," Jessica replied, a rare uncertainty in her voice. "No, it's just unexpected." Jessica set down her pen. "Mark, I've never told anyone this, but I studied ballet for 15 years. I was quite good, had a chance at a professional career before I chose business school instead." She smiled slightly. "I'd genuinely like to see Lily dance." The recital was chaotic, as kindergarten performances always are. Children forgot steps, tripped over costumes, and waved frantically to parents. Lily, dressed as a sunflower, performed her part with serious concentration. From his seat in the audience, Mark spotted Jessica slipping in just as the performance began, dressed casually in jeans and a sweater, so different from her office persona that he almost didn't recognize her. Afterward, as parents crowded around with flowers and congratulations, Lily broke away from her group and ran straight to Jessica. "Did you see me? I didn't forget any steps." Jessica knelt down, heedless of her designer jeans on the gymnasium floor. "You were the most beautiful flower in the garden. Your arms were so graceful during the twirling part." Lily beamed and threw her arms around Jessica's neck. "Thank you for coming, Mommy." The word hung in the air between them. Mark, who had been approaching with Lily's jacket, stopped short. Jessica's eyes widened, meeting his over Lily's head. Lily, oblivious to the bombshell she'd dropped, continued chattering about the performance as Jessica slowly stood, her face unreadable. "Lily, honey," Mark said gently, "Ms. Jessica isn't." "It's fine," Jessica interrupted, her voice strangely thick. "I should go." "Congratulations again, Lily. You were wonderful." She turned and walked quickly toward the exit, leaving Mark torn between following her and staying with his daughter. By the time he'd gotten Lily's things together, Jessica was gone. Monday morning arrived with a tension Mark could feel the moment he entered the office. Jessica wasn't at the morning meeting, her assistant citing an external appointment. By afternoon, rumors circulated that she'd been locked in her office since noon, canceling all appointments. At 5 p.m., as Mark was preparing to leave for Lily's pickup, his phone pinged with a message, "My office, please. J.W." Jessica was standing at her window when he entered, her back to the door, silhouette sharp against the fading daylight. "Close the door," she said without turning. Mark complied, his heart racing. Was this where she established boundaries? Where she told him to keep his daughter away from her? Or worse, where she fired him for allowing this inappropriate attachment to form? "I owe you an apology," Jessica said, finally turning to face him. "I've behaved unprofessionally. I've inserted myself into your personal life, created confusion for your daughter, and crossed boundaries that should have remained firm." Mark was stunned. "Jessica, Ms. Winters, you haven't done anything wrong." "I have," she insisted. "I've been using you and Lily to fill a void in my life without consideration for the consequences." She took a deep breath. "I never wanted children. Or rather, I convinced myself I didn't because my career came first. By the time I realized what I'd sacrificed for success, it seemed too late." Mark took a step toward her desk. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you deserve an explanation for why I'm going to step back. Lily calling me, that name, it made me realize how inappropriate this has become. She needs stability, not a confused attachment to her father's boss." "Is that all Lily is to you? Your employee's daughter?" Jessica looked away. "Of course not. She's extraordinary. She's bright and funny and kind. She's..." Her voice broke slightly. "She reminds me of who I might have been if I'd made different choices." "And what am I to you?" Mark asked quietly. The question hung between them. Jessica's professional mask slipped, revealing a vulnerability Mark had glimpsed only in rare moments. "You're the most dedicated father I've ever known," she finally said. "You're brilliant at your job despite the challenges you face. You're..." She stopped, seeming to search for the right words. "You're someone I admire greatly." Mark took another step forward. "Jessica, when Lily called you Mommy, I was shocked. Not because I was upset, but because I realized how natural it seemed. You've become important to her. To us. Jessica shook her head. I'm her father's boss. Nothing more. Are you sure about that? Mark challenged. Because bosses don't attend kindergarten recitals. They don't keep dinosaur books in their desk drawers. They don't spend their lunch breaks teaching 5-year-olds how to use presentation software. I've overstepped, Jessica insisted. No, Mark said firmly. You've connected. Maybe for the first time since you built this company. Jessica sank into her chair, the formidable CEO suddenly looking lost. I don't know how to do this, Mark. Whatever this is. Neither do I, he admitted. But Lily does. Children have an instinct for who truly cares about them. And she senses that you do. Of course I care about her, Jessica whispered. More than I should. Why should? Who makes these rules you're so afraid of breaking? Jessica looked up at him, her professional armor completely gone now. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we stop pretending. Stop acting like there's nothing happening here beyond a professional relationship. Stop denying that somehow, against all odds, the three of us have formed a connection that matters. And then what? Jessica asked, a hint of her usual pragmatism returning. Then we figure it out. One step at a time. The silence that followed was heavy with possibility. Finally, Jessica spoke. Lily asked me once why I don't have any pictures of people in my office. Only awards and landscapes. I didn't have an answer for her. Mark waited, sensing there was more. Yesterday, I bought a frame, Jessica continued. For the photo of the three of us from the company picnic. The one where Lily is between us on the swings. It was a small admission, but Mark recognized the enormity of what it represented for someone like Jessica. Have dinner with us tonight, he said impulsively. Nothing fancy. Just spaghetti and meatballs at our place. Lily's favorite. Jessica hesitated, then nodded. I'd like that. That evening, as Jessica sat at their small kitchen table helping Lily twirl spaghetti onto her fork, Mark watched them together, the powerful CEO and his small daughter, laughing over pasta sauce and silly jokes. Something settled in his chest, a certainty he hadn't felt since losing Claire. After Lily was tucked in, Jessica lingered in the living room, examining the photos on the wall, mostly of Lily, a few with Mark, and several with a beautiful woman whose smile matched Lily's. Claire, Mark said quietly, joining her. Lily's mother. Jessica nodded. She was beautiful. Lily has her smile. She does, Mark agreed. Claire would have liked you, I think. She valued authenticity above all else. Jessica turned to him, her professional mask completely gone now. When Lily called me mommy, what did you feel? Honestly. Mark considered the question carefully. I felt like something that had been broken was healing. Not replacing what was lost, but creating something new from the pieces. Jessica's eyes filled with unexpected tears. I've spent my entire adult life believing I had to choose, career or family. Never both. Never allowing myself to want both. Maybe you don't have to choose, Mark said gently. Maybe some choices find us when we're not looking. 6 months later, Jessica stood before the company's board of directors presenting Horizon's new family-friendly workplace initiatives, expanded parental leave, on-site childcare, flexible scheduling options. The program had been her personal project, developed with input from employees at all levels, particularly working parents. These policies aren't just compassionate, she explained to the skeptical board. They're smart business. They'll help us attract and retain top talent who might otherwise be forced to choose between career and family. What she didn't tell them was how personal this mission had become. How her own life had transformed since that evening in Mark's kitchen. How she now had dinner with Mark and Lily 3 nights a week. How she'd learned to make pancakes in animal shapes on Sunday mornings. How she discovered that success felt hollow without someone to share it with. The board approved her proposals unanimously. That evening, as she left the office at the unprecedented hour of 5:30 p.m., her assistant handed her a handmade card. Inside was a child's drawing of 3 figures holding hands, a tall woman in a blue dress, a man with brown hair, and a small girl between them. Above it, in careful kindergarten printing, "To Mommy Jessica, love Lily." Jessica traced the words with her finger, remembering the conversation from the previous weekend. She had been helping Lily with a school